fellow students. This is Mr. Umgungundlovu, the materials lecturer. So today's topic is based on concrete. There are two tests required on a concrete. We're going to start with the first one, which is the Aslam test. Aslam test is a very important test that is done on site, especially when we are dealing with a ready mixed concrete. This test is done for checking the consistency and the workability, and it is done on sites during placing of concrete. How is it actually done? So you have to pour. We have to have this equipment, which is your cone, your rodding, steel rodding, and then when the concrete arrives on site, so you take the sample from the ready concrete mix truck, and then you pour 150 on this cone, steel cone, and then you use this steel rod, and then you tap it 25 times in order to compact it or vibrate it, so that the air spaces between the concrete material particles are close together, so that there is no air spaces in between. And then you pour another 150 millimeter on the same cone, and then you use these steel rods, and then you tap it 25 times until you reach the upper level of the cone. And then once the cone is full, and then you turn it upside down, and then you'll have this type of a concrete mold. And then you turn the cone upside down, as I've said, and then by having that slump rate difference, and then if it's dry, or if it's not wet concrete, the slump rate must be at the maximum of 75 millimeter. If it is a wet concrete, the slump rate must be more than 150 millimeter. Then let's talk about the second test of concrete, which is a cube test. A cube test, this is for checking the strength of the concrete. The samples are taken to the laboratory for crushing 1 or in 2 days after the concrete have been placed on site. These 4 samples are taken for testing the strength of an actual structure which is there on site. How is it done? 1 cube will be crushed on the 7th day in a laboratory, and then the second cube will be crushed in a 14th day, and then the third one will be crushed in a 21st day, the fourth one on the 28th day. So what we have to know is that the concrete reach its maturity or its required strength after 28 days. That is probably 4 weeks. So here I've got the demonstration of how the crushing machine works in a laboratory. It keeps on compressing the actual cube until it reaches the fracture point, which is the breaking point. So the first one, it will be crushed, and then this machine will give you the actual strength of the first cube, which is the first 7th day. And then the second cube will be done on the same way, which will be crushed on the 14th day. And then the third one, and then the fourth one as well. And so this machine will, while it's compressing and crushing, it will give you the actual strength of the cube. So, which means that the actual concrete on site, you'll able to know that the strength which is required by the structural engineer after 28 days must correspond with the last cube. How to place the concrete? Because placing of concrete is very important. If you place the concrete incorrectly, you'll end up having so-called honeycombs. Here is a demonstration of honeycombs. This concrete column, it's been placed incorrectly, or too much vibration was done on it by means of poker vibrator. So there are two things that we must consider when you are placing concrete. You must avoid free falling from excessive height when placing concrete. It will cause segregation of concrete aggregates. Aggregates are mean sand and stones. Those are my aggregates. And you must avoid too much poker vibration when spreading the heap of concrete during placing of concrete. So those are the things that you must consider when you are placing the concrete, because segregation creates weak strength. Why concrete must be compacted? Compaction. When we are compacting the concrete, we are closing the air spaces between the materials of the concrete particles. We compact concrete so that air spaces or voids are closed in between particles of the material in order to achieve the stability or the strength of the concrete. To achieve the following, when you are compacting the concrete, you want to achieve the following. You want to achieve the actual or the required strength, the water tightness. I'm talking about the permeability, that the concrete does not, when it's set or hardened, it doesn't absorb too much water. Durability. It must last longer as a structure on site. The appearance, I'm talking about the aesthetics, which means pleasing looking. It must look good when it's being compacted. So those are the 4 points that you must know when you are talking about compacting of concrete: strength, water tightness, durability, and appearance. Bleeding. Once you've compacted the concrete, automatically it will start to bleed because you've already closing the air spaces in between, and then the water will move to the surface of the concrete. Bleeding is the name given to the process where excessive water in a concrete mixes rises to the surface. Bleeding of concrete can be controlled by putting an admixture, which is an air entrainer, or use fine aggregates like sand or cement. Once the concrete is starting to set, we said that concrete is green. If it's still mixable, we said that plastic, it's still on a plastic stage. But if it's setting, we say that concrete, it's in a green stage. So how to finish the concrete when it's in a green stage? Once the concrete is setting, it has a tendency to crack because of temperature cracks, plastic shrinkage cracks. So you must be able to finish the concrete so that you close those visible cracks nicely. So we've got three different types of, or three methods of finishing concretes. Brushing. Here I've got the typical example of how to brush the concrete when it's already set. You can use the brush just to close the visible cracks when it's still on the green stage. You can also use the second one, which is a hand troweling or hand floating. Hand floating, you use a tool which is similar to this one on the picture here. You close the visible cracks while the concrete is still on a green stage. You use a steel troweling or a wooden hand floating. The power floating. The power floating, here is the example of a power floater. You also power float the concrete while it's in a green stage. It sweep or it closes all the visible cracks while your concrete is still on a green stage. So once you finish your concrete nicely, so now you want your concrete to be cured or to reach the maturity, which is your 28th day. How to make your concrete to be cured? Curing is the process by which it is kept wet or damp so that the hydration process in an outer skin of the concrete can continue unhardened. Curing should start when concrete sets, and the duration will depend on the ambient temperature. If I'm talking about the ambient temperature, I'm talking about the outside temperature. Here are the benefits of curing hardened concrete are as follows. When you cure your concrete, you want to reach the actual strength, which is your concrete should be rigid. The durability, that is the second benefit, which means the concrete must last longer. If it's like 50 or 100 years, it must last that period. Water tightness, I'm talking about the permeability. The water must not absorb too much water. The concrete must not absorb too much water. Hardness, your concrete must be stronger, which means it must be able to withstand any load that is designed for. So we've got two different types of curing concrete. We've got the normal curing method. It's when the concrete is kept most in an ambient temperature, and then we've got the accelerated curing method. This method are when the concrete is kept at the temperature above the ambient temperature, which means we use some different methods or different components in an accelerated method. Here are the different types of curing methods. The first one is a plastic cover. Once your concrete is being finished off nicely by hand floating, power floating, or brushing, you can cover your concrete with plastic. It's either your slab or your surface bed or your column. The concrete columns or concrete beams. You can just cover it with the plastic so that there will be no water which will escape. That is the first one, plastic cover. And then let's move to the second one, ponding. Ponding, that is the watering the exposed set concrete structure. You just use the hose pipe and then you water your structure while it's still green or while it sets, so that the water content of the structure while your concrete is still green, it does not evaporate too much water because it will weaken the strength of the structure. The third one is a mist spray. So as we all understand the word mist, which means we're talking about the moisture. There's a water content. It's a periodically spray the concrete with fine mist spray until it absorbs the mist, which means you must spray your structure with that mist, and then it will absorb the mist. And then during evaporation, at least the structure got enough water content in it. Curing compound. Curing compound, you can buy curing compound in 20 liters or 5 liters from the hardware. So what you normally do, you just paint the green concretes. These are liquids that are applied to concrete. When the liquid dries, it forms a thin impervious layer to prevent evaporation. That is your curing compound. The last one. When you want to create like a beam or a concrete column, you always use a formwork. A formwork is when you mold your concrete to a particular shape. So you must keep that formwork for a long period as much as you can. Because if you've got your formwork in place, which means the water content of the concrete cannot able to evaporate easily, then this is the most commonly used and approved one. Leaving formwork in place provides the concrete with impermeable layer, effectively blocking evaporation to take place. Because the more the concrete evaporates water, and then it becomes weak in terms of strength. Now let's summarize what we've discussed in terms of concrete. So we should know the concrete test. I'm talking about the Aslam test, the cube test, the correct procedure to place the concrete to avoid segregation, especially of aggregates. Reason of compacting concretes to have good results. Know what is the bleeding of concrete and why we need to bleed it. Different types and procedures of finishing concrete, which is brushing, floating, power floating, troweling. We must be familiar with different methods of curing concrete and the reasons behind why we're using those curing methods. In a question paper or in an exam question paper, this is what you can expect. You must be able to list different types of curing methods. And then you must also know how to use them. Like plastic cover, ponding, mist spray, curing compound, keeping formwork in place for a particular period. And then the second question that you can expect from the examination question paper is why do we need to cure concrete? Reason for curing concrete. So you must know the benefits of which it is a strength. You want to obtain the strength, the durability, the watertightness, and the hardness of the concrete. You must also expect another question like different types of finishing concrete, which is brushing, hand troweling, steel troweling, or wooden hand troweling, power floating, or power troweling. Why concrete should be compacted? What exactly do you want to achieve? You want to achieve the strength, watertightness, durability, and appearance. So these two, they almost the same, but they are different. Why do we cure concrete? Why do we compact concrete? If you want to cure the concrete, you want to obtain the strength, watertightness, durability, and hardness. But if you compact concrete, you want to obtain the strength, watertightness, durability, and appearance, which is your aesthetics. What results you can get from, like, on a question paper, you can expect, like, what results that you can get when you are placing your concrete incorrectly. You must able to give the two reasons that we've discussed. Your concrete will segregate, which means will segregate your material, that is your aggregate. And then you must also not use too much poker vibration, because it's the poker vibrator, it's sometimes pushing your reinforcement or your spaces, because when you are pouring the concrete surface bed or the slab, there are some spaces, and then you must not use too much poker vibrator, especially when there's a heap of concrete during placing of concrete. Lastly, different types of concrete test. So you must understand what is a slum test, when it's done, and why it's done, how to do it. It's done on site, and then when we are about to pour the concrete, we start by doing the slum test, and then you must know the procedure of doing the slum test. Concrete cubes. That is the second test, concrete cube test. So we've got some, for each and every concrete structure, we're taking 4 samples, which means we've got 4 concrete cubes, which is the first one is the 7th day, the second one is the 14th day, the third one is the 21st day, and then the last one is the 28th day. That's where your concrete structure is reaching the maturity, or it's being cured. That's all that you need, or that you must expect from the examination question paper in terms of concrete. From my side, Mr. Mngomeni, thank you very much. Stay safe. Thank you very much.